Offtake speaking with Mike Ralston this morning from Blencowe Resources. Mike, morning.
Good morning, Andrew.
Significant bit of news from you this morning on the SAFELOOP consortium. Just firstly, give us a brief bit of background on Blencowe and the Orom-Cross graphite project.
Yeah, for those who've not seen a previous interview or seen much about the company, we are developing the Orom-Cross graphite project in Uganda. It's a very significant, estimated 2 to 3 billion tons graphite project. A lot of it near to surface, so it's going to be a very shallow, low-cost mining operation. We've done several drilling campaigns to get us a 25 million ton JORC resource to date. In fact, we're about to start another drilling program shortly. And we've done a couple of feasibility studies. Pre-feasibility has been completed, and we're in the definitive stage. So we're moving fast towards decision to mine and thereafter funding and ultimately production. So it's a great project and obviously good news today.
So this project SAFELOOP, Mike, tell us a bit more about it and your role within it going forward.
So the European Commission has put forward under its Project Horizon umbrella, which is a 100 billion euro scheme, I guess, to energy transition from to renewables. And under that umbrella, SAFELOOP falls. And it's a project designed specifically to develop a Generation 3 lithium-ion battery, which has specific mention in terms of safety enhancement and also in terms of recycling. So a lot of the materials used within it will be recycled, including graphite, I might add. And within that Gen 3 lithium-ion battery, they will be looking to put it into a standardized EV bus, which will then get deployed across the continent from 2027. So we are part of a project that's essentially developing that battery, an integral part, I might add, because we're going to be providing the natural flake graphite that goes into that via our technical partner in the United States, American Energy Technology. So we're working with them already, and I think it's a project that's going to have immense ramifications for Blencowe going forward.
Just on that then, tell us a bit more about the implications for Blencowe being involved in this initiative.
Yeah, Andrew, I think there's a number of key advantages that we need to just point out. First of all, we are the exclusive supplier of all the natural flake graphite into SAFELOOP, and that exclusivity is obviously a big thing. It's going to provide a long-term annuity income stream for us, and it's going to come from a tier one Western offtake partner or partners. It's a low-cost project entry for us. We don't have to pay much other than sending samples, which we've already done. And ultimately, this is where it gets very interesting because the target ramp up for this project will require up to 100,000 tons of small flake concentrate annually, which is about 50% of what we produce. So that's a very big number. And obviously, with the prices that they're talking about, which are substantially higher than the concentrate sales that we'd sell into Asian markets, that means some very, very significant returns for the company if and when this project goes ahead and ramps up to those sort of levels. It also showcases Orom-Cross, obviously, worldwide, because we're now part of a big European consortium. And within that, we're going to be working towards an EU green passport, which will then open the door for us to sell product into other EU offtake partners going forward. So lots of credibility within this. And I think huge differentiation for Blencowe in terms of pulling a Western offtake provider, which can pay, as I say, higher prices and takes us away from scrambling around in that Asian market like everybody else and being forced to take the prices which are being pushed down upon graphite miners who only produce concentrate at this stage. So a huge initiative, lots of advantages, and we're going to work with this team, within this team, to play our part, obviously make sure that we produce and get this battery developed through utilization of our graphite.
And so how does this new initiative fit in with your existing offtake strategy?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we've very recently announced that we've got a downstream processing strategy, which means that same small flake concentrate will be being moved down to be further purified in a beneficiation facility not far from Orom-Cross in Uganda. We think that Orom-Cross we know that Orom-Cross is big enough to handle all of the supply that we might ultimately get through offtake agreements, whether they come from our own facility as a downstream processing hub, or whether they come from something like SAFELOOP, which requires a huge and large growing demand from that as well. We will ultimately make sure that our facility at Orom-Cross is built to make available enough concentrate to fulfill all of the demand. In fact, we'll be very excited if the demand is as high as we think it's going to be in all these different initiatives. So we are working in, I guess, parallel to other initiatives that we're doing. We still have a number of tier one off-takers who are doing final test, and we're in negotiation in terms of off-take agreements for product. And we'll continue to work on that downstream processing strategy. But this is another parallel function in terms of off-take potential, and one that can be massive and hugely significant in terms of the returns. I might add long-term annuity income stream for the company going forward.
Well, look, Mike, over the last couple of months, you've announced a number of value-adding milestones, including, as you mentioned there, downstream processing, the Mineral Security Partnership accreditation, and now this morning, this new initiative. And yet the share price doesn't appear to reflect this growth. Any insight, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because you never quite know whether it's something we're doing or something the market's involved, or where it sits in terms of what's the issue here. But I guess our job is only to work within what we can involve and we can do. And we think that these value-adding initiatives that we're putting in, firstly, as I say, the downstream processing, which very few, if any, other graphite peers are going to be able to replicate. So that is incredibly differentiating and value-adding. And then the Mineral Security Partnership creates this relationship with a very, very highly influential body that can ultimately play a big role in terms of our funding solution. And now a third initiative comes to the fore, which is SAFELOOP, and what that can do for us in terms of building the commercial model and obviously the size and scale we want to ultimately produce at Orom-Cross. So once again, we're showcasing, I guess, a slightly different strategy in terms of relationships, in terms of what we're going to go out and achieve. And I think the share price will take care of itself. I think that the market will soon come to realize that the share price and market cap is just unreflective of what the value sits within this project and within the company. And our job is just to get to that feasibility study completion as quickly as we can. And we're working towards that. And as we continue to put out news flow, we continue to differentiate, and we continue to value add, the share price will look after itself.
So what are you working on now, Mike, in terms of upcoming news flow?
Well, as I mentioned, we are involved in a lot of discussions with tier one off-takers in terms of providing MOUs and ultimately agreements for offtake, which is great. We are involved, as we said, with this downstream SPG facility and ultimately the joint venture that's going to bring that to fruition. There's news flow around that coming through too. SAFELOOP will have its own news flow that continues to work through this project as it develops. And we are working through other initiatives and other work that we're doing in terms of the DFS. So, and of course, we're about to start a drilling program too. So there's all sorts of stuff happening everywhere as usual. And we'll continue to put out lots of news flow as and when we meet milestones.
Great to see you, Mike. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you for having me.